Hi team, this class is a Tour de France of Vin Blanc. So we are going to do French white wines. It's going to be a quick survey of the whole country, the most important things that you need to know to just have in your back pocket for reference and to be able to better read a French wine label. Because as we know, it is not common in France or most of Europe to put the grape on the label. So the region becomes synonymous with the grape. And there are some that you just really need to know and just have right off the tip of your tongue. So I'm going to share my screen with you. All right, so the entirety of France, we're going to go around clockwise. So if we think of France like a star, see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're going to go around this way. Okay, starting at the very top. In France, the northernmost wine region is Champagne. We don't need to worry about it. Champagne, is mostly sparkling wine. They do make still red, but they don't really make any white still wine. So we are going to ignore that. We are going to move over here eastward towards Germany to Alsace. Now, most important things to know about Alsace. It is situated to the east of the Vosges Mountains here. You can see the little topography. And why that is important is that it creates a rain barrier. And what happens is the mountains actually stop the weather that's coming across the country, and it's called a rain shadow effect. And so we have this little area that's very sunshiny. So we get a lot of sunlight. What grows best here are going to be white wines, and they tend to be very aromatic wines. So think of German varietals, because this property has tipped back and forth between Germany and France. It's also why we see those tall fluted bottles here in Alsace, just like we see in Germany. So think of things like Riesling, Gewürztraminer, and Pinot Gris. They tend to be aromatic, meaning they have strong floral character. They tend to be full-bodied. Remember, a lot of sunshine makes a lot of sugar, which then makes a decent amount of alcohol. So they tend to be rich and unctuous, but usually dry. Usually. Okay, that's one thing to know. And also, fun fact, Alsace is one of the only regions where you can put the name of the grape on the bottle. Right? So that is definitely an exception to the rule. It has to be all of that grape and from the same parcel of land. But if it says it's Riesling, it is 100% Riesling in that bottle from Alsace. So Alsace makes it a bit easier in some ways. Those are the most important things to know. Now, moving southward, we'll start here in Burgundy. Now, Burgundy is one of the most complicated AOC systems in France for both red and white. But the easy thing to remember here is that if it is a white Burgundy, it is a white wine from Burgundy, it is Chardonnay, period, full stop. It is Chardonnay. There is an exception for the grape Aligoté, but it will say Aligoté on the label. So you're never going to be tricked there. So if you just see white wine from Burgundy, it is Chardonnay. Super easy to remember, right? And this outlier pink area is Chablis. So that's an important name to know. Chablis is going to be Chardonnay. It's a very popular style. It tends to be very chalky, high acid. It is not that buttery, oaky Chardonnay that we sometimes think of, okay? We see a little bit more of that style down in the larger part of Burgundy, okay? So that is something really important to know. Going over to the Jura here, this tiny little area here, we have Chardonnay is the most important grape there, but they tend to be made in a style that makes them very nutty. So if you see a Chardonnay from Burgundy, from the Jura, excuse me, or a Sauvignon, not a Sauvignon, a Sauvignon from the Jura, you can really expect that it's going to be a very nutty, you know those nuts for nuts guys that sell them on the side of the street in New York City? That's the smell taste of the Jura in my mind. They're like roasted almonds. Coming down to Savoie, another small region. We don't know, usually see too much of this wine, but if you work in a French restaurant, you'll definitely see them. Okay, here we're in the Alps, right? We can see all this topography here. Think about Alpine white wines. Think Jacquard, Altesse, okay? Grapes we don't see super duper often, but you will see them. And then we also get a little bit of creep from the Rhone. So in Savoie, you will also see some of those Rhone white varietals like Viognier, Roussanne, and Marsanne. Okay, because these, grapes don't know borders. They just were planted where they were planted. Moving south, we have the Northern Rhone, which is going to be, again, Viognier is going to be the grape of Condrieu. The appellation of Condrieu is going to be Viognier. In the Northern Rhone, we also have Marsanne and Roussanne put in the blends. Going to the Southern Rhone, you're going to see more things thrown in there besides those three varietals. You're going to have sometimes Grenache Blanc, Rolle, other grapes. You don't have to worry too much about that. I want you more to know the style. The style is going to be, because it's very hot here, richer, more unctuous, waxy, these like tropical kumquat kind of notes. Okay, these are big, bold white wines because of the hot climate that they come from. But those three grapes are the most important to know from that region. Looking in the south here, in this pink region of Provence and into the Languedoc-Roussillon, we do see white wines from these regions. It's obviously covering a ton of territory. This and this southwest area here is sort of where the white grapes come to party. You're going to see everything planted in these regions, and they're usually blends. So there are some specific appellations for white wines, but usually they're going to be some type of field blends. And you're going to see every style imaginable. Imagine this, the south of France here is like the bread basket, or like the wine basket, bread basket of France. So tons of wine comes from here. A lot of it is bulk wine. Anything and everything is planted. And there's tons of microclimates in here too. So you get everything from crisp white wines to richer styles. You do have to dig in and know a little bit more about the wine in particular. But one good rule of thumb is that it is quite hot down here. And so even if you get a white wine with good acidity, it's still probably going to be on the fuller side. I wouldn't expect it to be super racy, super high-toned wine. I'd expect it to be more on that richer style. Moving upwards, we have Bordeaux here, this white region. White grapes here, they're the most important, would be Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc. They can be blended or they can be vinified separately, but you will see on the label here, Bordeaux Blanc. You would have to know more about the wine to know what the breakdown of the grapes are, but assume that it's going to be Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, maybe some Muscadel in there. Because in France, as I said, you're not going to see the grapes on the label most of the time, unless it's a label that's made for the Americas. It will just say Bordeaux Blanc. Now we know where that is coming from and what it means. And last but not least, I saved the Loire for last because it's pretty important and there's a lot of white wines going on here. Starting from the Atlantic, moving inwards, you see this river system that's going through right through the center of France. That is the Loire River, hence the name. You can see quite a bit of green here, so there's a lot of area under vine. And we see every style of wine here. We have sparkling wine, red wine, sweet wines, and a lot of still white wine too. So on the coast, again, the label is going to say Muscadet. Okay, that's not Muscat or Moscato, that's a grape. Muscadet is the actual appellation, and the grape is Melon, like melon. Melon de Bourgogne, as in Melon de Burgundy, of Burgundy. Okay, they tend to, Melon de Bourgogne is a fairly neutral grape, so the wines show a bit of winemaking. They have a very leesy texture. When I say that, think about like champagne when it gets kind of toasty and it has sort of a yeasty character to it. That's the same thing because the wines tend to be rested on the dead yeast cells after fermentation to create a creaminess, a texture, and flavor to an otherwise fairly neutral grape. Okay. Moving inwards, we're going to see more Chenin Blanc. Okay. There are several appellations that are just going to be Chenin Blanc. One of them would be Vouvray. If you see Vouvray on the label, it is Chenin Blanc. Okay, so it's a Vouvray Blanc, it is Chenin Blanc. That's what it is. Chenin Blanc has very racy and piercing acidity as well. It usually has some type of appley notes. It can be everything from Jolly Rancher apple to very light apple blossom. But it sometimes can show a little tropical, but it always is going to retain, even if it has a little sweetness, an acid that is just going to hit you right here. Now, moving inwards, we have Sancerre. Now, Sancerre is one of those ones that trips people up, and why I wanted to finish with it. Sancerre is Sauvignon Blanc. Sancerre is the appellation. Sauvignon Blanc is the grape. Okay, so a lot of customers don't know that. We don't want to make anyone feel stupid because this labeling system is really confusing that the labeling would just assume that we know that that's what the grape is in the bottle. But as wine professionals, at a very minimum, this is the kind of stuff that we need to know, because if someone says, I like a Sancerre, you need to know that Sancerre is Sauvignon Blanc so that you can make recommendations accordingly. Thus concludes our whirlwind tour of French white wine. I think I covered a good deal. And I think that's about it. That is by no means by absolutely no means is that full coverage. But that is just a brief overview. And let me know if you have any questions. Turn off my stop sharing here. Good luck, everybody. Let me know if you have questions. I'm happy to answer them or dig a little bit deeper in there. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.